Okay, so the previous example where I used the scanner, I went ahead and changed that project name, or actually created a new project name and moved it all over into a project called read file with scanner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use, or what I'm going to do next, I'm going to show you how to use the file reader, buffered reader, file writer, and buffered writer. And that example is going to be in the read and write file. Okay, so I went ahead and just reused the same project. But this time what I went ahead and did is I just used food items. Just thought it would be easier, I suppose. So I'm going to read these items, and then what I'm going to do at the end of the example is I'm going to actually like write to this list as well. So here is my driver class. Now what we're going to do is we still have to create the file. So let me go and just do that. Okay, so I'm going to call this one data file. All right, and then we pass in the file that we want to read. Okay, so if you need to read a file and you're just trying to read like plain text, the scanner class is the way to go. Okay, it's super easy, has an iterator. Now in Java we have this class called the file reader, which is essentially a way to read a file, but we're actually reading it like in bytes. Okay, which is probably something we don't want to do if we're just trying to like read plain text out of a file. Okay, so you have the file reader that we need to use. So I'm going to go ahead and create this object. So new file reader, file reader, and I'm going to go ahead and pass the data file. Okay, so like I said, this class is actually to read a file in bytes. So I'm going to create this object, but then I'm going to pass it to a buffered reader, which is more efficient at reading, especially if we're just trying to read text out of a file. I don't believe it has an iterator on it like the way we do in our scanner class, but there's a way to iterate through each line, and I'll go ahead and demonstrate that to you. We have to handle an exception just like we did with the scanner class. This is red. If I just highlight this, and I can see that I need to surround it with try catch. And it's the same thing, the file not found exception. So I'm going to go ahead and just create a custom message here. System out print, and actually let's do print F. I'm going to say could not find file, and then %s with the exclamation mark. I'm going to go ahead and pass in the data file get name. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify that this works by changing the name of the file, which does not exist here. So when I run this compile, you can see that I do get cannot find file. Why is there a little tick right there? I just noticed that. I have no idea. Oh, because there's a tick right there in the name. All right, so I'd messed that up. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and remove that, and actually move the 1, 2, 3 as well. So this file actually exists. Okay, so now I have my file reader. This is great. Like I said, like if you wanted to read bytes of a file, you can just do file reader dot read, and you can see like you can pass in like offsets and things like that. This class requires like you can go and read the API on this and become more like well informed on how exactly you use the file reader. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the buffered reader. Okay, and the buffered reader, we're going to pass in our file reader. All right, and then from our buffered reader, we can do things like read line. Okay, and this should return, I didn't see what it returned. Oh, there's an exception that we have to handle. All right, so I'm going to click this. I'm going to click on add catch clause and input output exception. I'm going to go ahead and just make a nice little message here. System.out.println. And this is probably going to occur if we like are out of lines and we try to read the next line and there's nothing there. So here what I'm going to do is put I don't know, input output exception. All right, I guess I don't really need a printf. I thought I was going to add something there. Okay, so I'm handling the reading line, but what I'm going to do is just do like a system.out.println, and I'm going to read a line from this file. Go ahead and run, and you can see I read the first line. Okay, so I read the first line, and the next time I read a line, it should be the next line. Okay, but there isn't an iterator here, right? So if I do like a while, and I don't believe there is, BufferedReader dot has, right, there's nothing there. Okay, so what we can do is kind of make our own iterator. Let's see, so we'll say this, we'll say string line is null, and then inside of my while loop I'm gonna say line is equal to BufferedReader dot readLine. Okay, so I'm basically assigning line the next line, and I'm gonna say if this is not null, then we're gonna keep doing this over and over and over again, but I'm gonna just simply come in here and print out the line that's stored inside of this variable line. I missed my semicolon there, and let's go ahead and run this. And there you go. So I was able to just go through the whole, like every line inside of that file by doing read line. So some of the other things that you'll probably notice is I create this object and then I just pass it here. You know what a lot of people do is they'll just take this constructor, and instead of just making a variable like an object reference variable, they'll just directly pass it into the buffered reader and kind of just get rid of that file reader object reference variable, and it works just the same. Okay, and you can see that it did exactly what it needed to do. Okay, so that was me reading the file. So let's go ahead and demonstrate writing to the file. Yeah, let's see. So with that, let's go ahead and, oh, you know what? We got to close all of this. Dang it. Maybe we do need that file reader. Okay, so I'm just going to come over here and say BufferedReader.close, and I should probably close this one as well. Dang it. All right, so I'm going to do this Control Z really quick and come over here, close my buffered reader, close my file reader. All right, cool. Now here is where I'm going to go ahead and write to a file. It's the same, it's pretty much the same pattern. I'm going to use a file writer. I'm going to call this one file writer is equal to new file writer, and then you pass in the file that you're going to write to, which is the data file. There's probably, I mean, you're going to have to handle that exception if the file's not found. So around with the try catch, I'm going to go ahead and just copy this exception, this output right here, paste it in right there. Oops, what the heck? What happened? All right, I'm going to copy this, Control C, and then paste it in right here. Okay, so I'm making my file writer, and you can just hit file writer and then dot, and you can see like all the cool things that you can do with it. Okay, the file writer once again is like for byte manipulation of the file, so we're going to use the buffered writer. Okay, and buffered writer is equal to new buffered writer, and I'm going to go ahead and pass in the file writer. All right, and there's no other exception we have to handle for now. So then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to write to this file. I'm just not sure exactly the best way to do this without overwriting. So I'm going to what I should have done is made a string up here, and then like if I wanted to append to it, then I could have done that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and just copy this so I don't lose it and you can see what I'm talking about. So I copy that, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and just write to this file. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and write a string, and you can put like where exactly you want to write to it. But I'm going to go ahead and write just string that says this is a test. All right, so go ahead and run. And here's me reading the file, and I don't really have any output for writing. But when I come over here, you can see that I wrote this is a test, and it didn't actually work. And I believe it's because I forgot to close. So let me do that. Buffered reader, close, and file writer, close. All right, so let me run this one more time. Okay, there's nothing to read. But the right is this is a test. All right, so let me go and paste in what I overwrote. Come back over here, try that one more time, run. It reads everything, and then I don't really have any output when I write. So when I come back over here, I just kind of overwrote what was there. All right, so what I want to do is I actually want to make this like somewhat efficient to where I'm not just like writing over what's actually there. So what I can do is just make a string, like I can read the contents, and then go ahead and like append to the end of that string. So I'm going to come over here and make a string called file content. Okay, I'm going to make it an empty string for now, but when I'm actually like reading the file here, what I'm going to do is do plus equals line. Actually, this is using a string class, or using string concatenation is actually like a really inefficient thing to do. I should probably use a string buffer because strings are immutable. So every time you concatenate to a string, you're actually having to create a new object. But I'm going to do this for now, but then I'm going to show you the more correct way of doing this. And I think even IntelliJ is trying to tell me the same thing. Yeah, string concatenation in a loop is a bad idea. All right, so I'm basically putting everything into this string called file content. And then what I'm going to do is, instead of writing, this is a test, I'm going to come over here and put file and plus new line. This is a test, right? It should retain all the content. So I'll go ahead and run this program. It reads the file, come over here, and oh dang, I forgot to put the new line characters. Every time I read the string in, like it should have put that new line in there. But it put it all in one line. So let me go ahead and, dang it, I lost what I had. Okay, so can I Control Z this? Okay, perfect. All right, so come back over here, and I need to also concatenate in the line. All right, so run this one more time. Come over here, and you can see this is test. I guess I didn't really need to put in that new line in front because it technically already had one when I did it here. So I didn't need to put it right there. All right, let's try to Control Z over here. Run this one more time. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's exactly what we wanted to do. All right, so you can also use writing and like specifying where exactly you want to write. If you actually just come over here to BufferedWriter and do like write, you can do like the integer offset, right? That's actually like what character you want to write at, which I think is maybe like a little difficult to keep track of because you're actually like counting, you know, what you're actually going to write to. New line, you know, I actually don't know what new line does. Let's see what it does. I forget what it does. Okay, well, sometimes you can hover over this and actually tells you for the Java docs. Okay, I don't know why my Java docs must be turned off. Writes a line separator. Okay, so we could just call new line. So it's basically the same thing as not doing this. We could have just done the new line. So I could have just done, concatenated in, or actually put the file content back and then called new line and then wrote the, this is a test. Okay, so for instance, I could have done it like this. Take this away and then come over here and we'll just add in pizza, like another food type. Actually, we didn't need to do that because I put all this stuff up here. Dang it. Okay, well, we'll just see what it does. All right, so come back over here and Control Z. Come back over here. We'll run this. Oops, wrong one. Dang it. Actually, we'll still run it even though I was on this file. Let me go ahead and close this. All right, and you went ahead and added pizza to there, right? So like when you click write, you're actually writing like items to the file. Like you can do multiple writes, and it's just kind of like you're concatenating or adding to the end. Okay, so that's the way you write it. It's actually pretty powerful to read and write to a file. Like I said, if I was reading a file, even like since I don't have to want to deal with all this, like like having to use a file reader and a buffer reader, I'll just use a scanner class up here just because I find it easier to use. And then to write, I would use the file writer. Yeah. So there's more I want to talk about. I'm going to go and do another example. That'd be, yeah, I'm going to do another example like writing objects to a file. It's actually really, really interesting as well. And that's using like the object reader and writer. I don't know if I have another video on it, so I'm going to go ahead and just make a video on that because it's actually a lot of good information to know. So back to what I wanted to talk about. Okay, so even IntelliJ is telling you that string concatenation in a loop is a bad idea. It's telling you to convert it to a string builder instead. So the idea is strings are what we call immutable, meaning the data within that object cannot change. So every time you concatenate, you're actually creating a new object, okay? And that's taking up a lot of overhead. So if I came over here and said string builder, okay, and just made it like a new string builder, then instead of concatenating, I can just append. Okay, and I don't know if this is a bad idea or not. Is there like a pin line? I don't know. I don't know the efficiency of putting in that new line. If it's more efficient to just do this, right? Add the line and then add the new line character to it. I'm not sure. But essentially what you're going to do is when you're ready to write the file content, you're going to do file content and then toString. And it's going to give you the string of the string builder. And because the string builder is mutable, it's actually adjusting its size to accommodate for everything that you're adding to it. So you're not like creating a new object inside of memory every time you concatenate. And this is, and if you're doing, like if you're reading large files, right? If you're doing like a loop like over and over and over again, like it actually makes a huge performance difference. So now when I run this, you won't really see any benefit from it because my data set is pretty small, but it's actually a lot more efficient using the string builder. Okay, so that is it for reading and writing to a file. The next thing I want to talk about is writing an object to a file, and that's actually really important. We have to use the serializable interface. Chapter 7, we talked about interfaces. I'm not sure if I demonstrated it in the Chapter 7 videos, but I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate this in a bit. So I'll make a new project and show you how to do that.